Very good morning, my dear students. We were discussing about conservation of the government land, and it is known to us that this is achieved through the Land Conservancy Act of 1957. So what are the main focus areas of this chapter will be analyzed. So I'll be taking you to the concept of government land, what is the meaning of Porambok, and we will of course see the procedure of eviction of unauthorized occupation in the government land, and what is the land assignment procedure, especially with regard to the government lands, which has been brought in through this legislation. So this chapter, we all know that this chapter is very important because this comprises all forms of land that comes under the direct control of the government. So what do you mean by which is under the direct control of the government? We have seen that under the classification of land, the lands will be held by individual. The land can be held by the private charity institutions, or it can be held by the trust, and it can also be directly held by the government for the welfare of the people. So whatever may be the type of holding, the clear aim of this holding is that there should be welfare of the common people. And here we can see that what is written over there is that this land, especially the government lands, are protected for the common good and the development needs of the society. And the single concept that operates behind this is a equitable access. But we cannot just argue that this is an equitable access which is necessarily envisaged by each and every one of us. But that will be limited by the government through the legislation itself. And we can see that there are various problems under this act also, under this area also, like misuse of these lands by the influential persons or the groups, and they are using it for their personal greed and gain, that you might have learned under the MC Mehta versus Kamal Nath, where the reserved forest itself is tried to be, and the order of the river itself is tried to be changed for the protection or the use of a single person or a private mortal. And all this happens in our country. So, but we have to have an awareness regarding how our legislation operates and what will lead to the better protection, and how we can remove the hurdles when such types of cases are coming before you. And what is the type of argument that you can raise based upon the legislative intention itself. So let me take you to the introduction. Where the introduction, we can see that it was not a simple origin. We can see it was prior to this act, there were two other legislation, that is Travancore Cochin Land Conservancy Act of 1951 and the Madras Land Encroachment Act of 1905. And we can see that just after the formation, 1957 itself, we got our Land Conservancy Act. And this act underwent changes to meet the needs of the hours, like the procedural hurdles, where we can see the three amendments. The most important amendments are 1971, 2001 and 2009. And thus we can see that the final amendment and the procedure that we learn is from the 2009. And what is the reason that why we need to have a legislation? I have told you in the earlier classes that the legislature would interfere into a situation where it necessitates certain glaring problems. And as we all know, when we consider the number of legislation that has emanated with regard to the land, the glaring problem is the value of the land itself. When the value of the land itself increases, and when the number of people are increasing, the gulf between the haves and the have-nots are not being curtailed by the legislations. What happens is that there would of course be an encroachment. Sometimes it may be a mass encroachment. So the situation calls for what should be done, how this can be remedied. And moreover, we know that certain times the penalties that has been imposed upon the person who indulges in such types of crime are very less. So this also needs the revision, and this also still an area that is a gray area which needs to be revised by the government. So here we can see that the ambit and extent of the government land is defined under the Land Conservancy Act of 1957, and that is very important. So let me take you to the arena of what is the government land comprises of. Apart from what is envisaged under the definition 1957, we can see that this also includes the land which is coming under the Kerala Land Reforms Act. That is, the lands which is surrendered either through the attachment or through the voluntary surrender, as we have learned under the Kerala Land Reforms Act of 1963, will be forming part and parcel of the government land. The second important matter is that when there is an unauthorized occupation in the government lands, and when these people, the unauthorizedly occupied people, are evicted from this area, that also need to be considered under the government land definition. And these lands ought to be protected from encroachment, because they ought to be utilized for the development activities of the government and for the distribution among the landless people, and also for increasing the state revenue. So this is the intention of protecting these lands. And thus we can see that the conservation of the government lands and to regulate the matters of assignment, the Act lays down certain important areas like what is government land comprises of. So remember that I have already told you the land which is excessive, or the land which is surrendered, and the land which is under unauthorized occupation. All these, when it reaches the government registry or the revenue areas, we can see that these areas are considered as government lands. Then let us see what is the definition of the government land. That is, to achieve the conservation, the government land has been categorized under let me take you directly to the definition of the government land. That is, 1 minute. Let us see what is summary. Okay. Then we will go to the explanation. The government land is summarized as the government owned property, refers to the land or other assets that are legally owned by the government or the government entity. Okay. The land which is government owned property refers to the land or other assets that are legally owned by the government or the government entity. The second category is that government owned property may be titled at national, state or local level and may or may not allow unrestricted public access those properties. Then some government owned properties constitute public goods such as parks, libraries, roads and sewer and water lines. So these are some of the area that we can draw through the inferences that these properties can be brought under the government land. Along with that, property of government is defined under the Land Conservancy Act of 1957. So you can read like this. This is the proper definition, that is all public roads, streets, lanes, paths, bridges, ditches, dikes and fences on or beside the same, the bed of the sea or of the harbors, creeks below the high water mark, the beds and banks of rivers, irrigation and drainage channels, tanks, lakes, backwaters, watercourses and all standing and flowing water and all lands wheresoever situated are the property of the government. Then even a land once registered in the name of a person may become the property of the government. This happens when the registered holder relinquish or abandon the land. Then the land acquisition also has some properties added to the government properties. They are through the estate, purchase, resumption or reversion and acquisition. And every land once vested in the government cannot be alienated without the concurrence of the government. Then the Land Reforms Act 1963 plays an important role in addition to the government land, such as surrender of excess land under Section 85 and the gift of excess land under Section 87. Then holdings by way of lease, license from the government, it is treated as government land. Then lands belonging to any other states in India or the Kerala State Electricity Board or to a university established by law or to a corporation owned or controlled by the government of Kerala or to any panchayat as defined in the Kerala Panchayati Raj Act 1994 or any municipality as defined in the Kerala Municipality Act 1994 is deemed to be the property of the government. Then all unassessed lands within the limits of the private estates which are used or reserved for the public purposes or for communal use of villagers, and all public roads and streets which are vested in any local authority shall for the purpose of this act be deemed to be the property of the government. Okay, so this is a definition. This is inference that we can draw from the definition. This is not as such the definition, and you will not find such a division under the definition itself. But you should be able to understand these are the matters to be brought under the concept of the government land. And let me tell you, there are certain exemptions from the property of the government, like certain properties such as the properties held by janmis, wardars or holders of inams are exempted from the government lands. Then the lands belonging to the persons registered in the revenue records as holders of lands in any way which is subject to the payment of land revenue to the government is not the property of the government. Then the land held by registered holder in any proprietary rights or grants from the government are not the lands of the government. So I think this is the limit of the class today. So today we were trying to analyze the various areas of the government property. So we can see that this act tries to address us, tries to bring in the comprehensiveness of the definition of the government land. Here we can see, I told you I will take you to the discussion later on. That is, before analyzing the definition set out under the Kerala legislation of the government land, it would be better to see what all comprises the property of the government. So here we can see that government property can include residential properties, commercial properties, as well as industrial lands and other physical attachments or the machinery that has been attached to this land. You do remember the concept of immobile property, that is the benefits arising out of land, things attached to earth, things fastened to anything attached to the earth with the intention of permanent annexation, etc., are brought under the concept of immobile property. So here we can see that property may become the government owned property through the normal purchase, or if it is foreclosed or on the failure to pay taxes or for other reasons. The government property may also refer to the property which is administered by the government, such as embassy buildings and deputations. Then property that is owned by the government is typically exempted from being taxed. Then some government-owned properties are intended for public use, may be funded by taxation. As we all know that we have got a public library, we have got other instances like public amenities that is provided, etc. Okay, so the examples are National Defense System, law enforcement agencies, sewer systems, libraries and public parks. Okay, therefore, I led you to the summary of the government property. So we'll have a further discussion in the next class. Thank you for your patient listening. If you have any doubts, please post those questions in the Google Classroom. Thank you.